I'm Deep Mahaman and you're watching the Redmen TV.
Hello, welcome to the Redmen TV. It's the Uncensored match build-up show. Liverpool taking on Blackburn in the FA Cup quarter-finals. I'm joined by Chris Pajak, Matt Ladson and Ben Malane as well to talk through this one. Chris, first of all, 90 minutes from
90
Wembley.
minutes from Wembley, man, it's crazy, isn't
All being
it?
a semi-final.
Yeah, and you're not including stoppage time there at all.
Of course.
But,
I haven't made allowances for any injuries or substitutions, but continue.
or replays. Nah, man, I buzzing for it, like, it's the best opportunity we've got of winning the FA Cup.
It's really...
It's really,
Matt, it's really crept up on me, this, actually. You know, before we filmed, I was literally like, it's quarter-finals, right? Like, really? I think it's probably because of, like, the Europa League stuff where you're, like, 7,000 matches from the final. Still, you know, at that point, like, I can't get my head around the fact that if you win this within the semi-finals, it's good on you. I mean, we've managed to fashion a good old-fashioned cup run, somehow.
Well, yeah, I mean... Yeah, what can you say to that?
Yeah.
Yes, it is the quarter-final.
Yeah, just for confirmation, like, yeah. But I mean, you know, we have, you know, we got to the final a few years ago, didn't we, under Dalglish, and I think there was a real feeling that sorry, Tom just nearly fell off his seat. So you know, someone leans back and they have that, like, that moment of panic, that face right there, imagine that. Anyway, we digress. There was a real feeling the competition had been undervalued. Obviously, Kenny Dalglish lost his job after winning the Carling Cup, getting us to the final. And it's been a bit of a sticking point for Liverpool fans for a while. But, I mean, personally, I mean, does the FA Cup hold a high level of importance for you?
Personally, not particularly. But that's if you've got other... you know, competitions to be competing in. Now, obviously, yeah, like, you know, we want to win trophies, and it'd be great to, you know, winning breeds success, sort of thing.
Absolutely.
If you look at City, before they won the Premier League, they won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
You know, and
even Chelsea,
I think they had to win a few cup competitions before they went on to because, you know, you get that winning feeling and that winning habit, and the players learn what it is to must win games, because effectively that's, you know, what it is. So yeah, now it's gained importance, but if you were to ask me, like, at the beginning of the season, it's pretty low down on the importance scale, because as nice as it is to win a trophy, in the grand scheme of where Liverpool Football Club is at the moment, and in terms of the importance of being in the Champions League next season for the whole future of the football club, you know, the FA Cup is like, you know, a minuscule importance, because if you win the FA Cup at 10 to 5, by 5 o'clock it's irrelevant. Like, you get nothing from it at all, apart from, oh yes, you know, we won a trophy.
You get a bus tour, you get the positive vibes around the city. But to be fair, look what it did for Arsenal last season. And ultimately this season, it's not had a great knock-on impact, but there's a team and a fan base desperate for a piece of silverware. That made every Arsenal fan would rather have won the FA Cup and finished fourth than get to within a whisker of the Premier League like we did last season.
But to give them then the option between finishing fourth or winning the FA Cup, at the time they might have said, oh, we want to win the FA Cup, but 3 months later, you know, the FA Cup win meant absolutely nothing. They're still calling for Wenger to be sacked.
Yeah.
And if they weren't in the Champions League, then he'd be gone, because they wouldn't have got Alexis Sanchez in the summer. You know, the knock-on effect of all that kind of thing. You know, the number one ultimate importance to Liverpool Football Club this season is to ensure that we're in the Champions League next year.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely, I think I don't think you can possibly argue that. I think the only side point to that, Ben, you think, look, it's one game to the semis. You're 2 games away from the final. You've got this game, and then it's like it's the end of April, isn't it? Toward mid
18th, 19th.
Yeah, toward the end of April. So you've got a little bit of a break until if you get through to the semis. It's not like the Europa League where you're talking 2-legged affairs, midweek games, left, right and centre.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because I totally agree with Matt in the fact that Champions League is huge and it's massive, but I've been thinking about this recently, and I'd probably be a bit controversial and say there's a point of, there's a big part of me that thinks it is more, I'd rather win the FA Cup than finish in the top 4. And people might say, oh, how ridiculous is that?
And they will. But if that's what YouTube comments are all
yes,
about.
quite right. But if you look at the bigger picture, you think obviously United have dropped out of it this year and have had to pay ridiculous money in order to get back into the to attract top players. But then you think, who have we signed this year off the back of selling them Champions League? And you think about it, our
extenuating circumstances.
So therefore, we're out the Champions League already this year, aren't we? It come and went, and obviously the money is a factor. There's no getting away from that, and obviously our turnover. But if you think our squad the way that it is next season, no one's going to leave in the summer that we don't want to leave, really. So in a crazy sort of way, I think winning a trophy for Rodgers and for this group of players would sort of like seal them together a lot more, and it would give them a lot more sort of. And then next year, maybe if we were in Europa, then we probably would play a youth team, and we would do that what we did the year before, when we only have one game a week and we go for the league.
I get what you're saying, but I just think it's too important, because I think the reason that we didn't sign massive players on the back of getting in the Champions League is because we lost our talisman, and everyone wanted to see what Liverpool would be like without Luis Suarez. And the second thing is, the more you're in the European top competition, if you can prove that you can get there year in year out,
the better players.
then the better
players. We would have been signing, Ozil and Sanchez and players like that, because they're in the Champions League every year, and they can say, look, you're going to play in Champions League every year. We're not in a position to say that. And more importantly, as much as we don't want to sit here and talk about the money, but the Champions League entrant, people that are in the Champions League next season earn more than double what you earn in this season. Yeah. So if we're not in it, that gap is going to become massive.
Can I just stop you all there for a second, though? Everyone's aware. I hope everyone's aware at home that they're not mutually exclusive things. We could still win an FA Cup and finish in the top four. But what I mean is,
the FA Cup rank.
But I think this is it. You're dead right. The most important thing is without. I think, and I like the what's the word? The sort of romanticism of your suggestion, Ben.
It's almost not so much romance. It's almost so much you're looking at the bigger picture, that we could still easily get top four next season with the squad that we've got.
But we might not, because say if we didn't get in the Champions League and United get back in, and then this gap financially becomes huge. No player's going to sign for us because of that. We could have a huge problem getting back in the Champions League, and we know better than anyone else that after 5 or 6 years without it, how difficult it is to get back in. So having got back in, we need to stay there.
To be fair, though, it's not like
you look at our squad is more than capable of getting into the top four. As I said, we've already discussed it. If we would have been going for the league if we'd have started like we did at the beginning of the year, and that's without Suarez, isn't it? And you look at the situation. Sturridge was out after a year. We've still got the ability to sign players. There are players out there who can
my only sort of counterpoint to that is,
if we go and spend £40 million on a player in the summer because we've got Champions League and he's a flop, that's it.
No, yeah, I get what you're saying, but then you also run the risk of, and you've not talked about this, is that you run the risk of your players getting picked up by Champions League clubs.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Which is fucking easier for them.
Around Coutinho and Sterling.
Yeah.
And
and then they'll be like, well, I could sit here and we could do another year like this and we might miss out right at the end again, or I could just fucking jump ship and get Champions League football.
No, it's absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. People are going to come knocking for Coutinho and Chan in the next 2 or 3 years, whether we're in the Champions League or not. Yeah, that's the reality. If they keep developing the way they are, he'll be the next Kaka to Real Madrid. He'll be the next Khedira to Bayern Munich.
Yeah, but I do kind of agree with that thing. We need that big money to be able to match the teams that are above us and what have you. But I think we've already seen this season. We did spend big, but Man United, we said, went out there. They went and bought all those established big name, dead expensive individual purchases. And there's a difference of points. A handful of points between us now. Exactly. And you wouldn't, when you compared the shopping lists at the end of the window, you'd have said Man United bought so much better than Liverpool, and that actually looked true, even though they weren't great at the start of the season. There's no one who wouldn't have had Falcao over Balotelli. No. There's no one at the time, although Malane was obviously highly rated. I think everyone
wanted Luke Shaw.
Fancied Luke Shaw, for a long term
option.
Absolutely, no one wouldn't have wanted Di Maria in the summer, etc.
But then isn't that an example of how it's not all the be all and end all?
Well, it just says to me we've got a better fucking coach.
We've got a better mentality.
And the committee that was awful is now the best thing since sliced bread.
I won't go that far.
It's proven it.
It's still a debate for a whole, week-long special.
Apart from Balotelli, they're all proven that they were shrewd buys.
They were, but that's because we come at it from a totally different point of view than United, who have just thrown the big money. Yeah. We would never be able to do that anyway.
No,
because we've not had sustained success for 20 years like they have.
But like I say, I think feeding into Ben's point is that it's. You're right, losing out on a season and potentially the knock-on effects are there. But I'm less fearful of us manoeuvring the transfer market now than I was 6 months ago, certainly. Like it actually looks like we do. Right, maybe the jury might still be out on the transfer committee, but I think you can say that the vast majority of the players we've bought, you can understand why we've bought them. It's probably Balotelli's the only one who genuinely sticks out as looks it looks like he's available. We'll have him.
Low choice.
And the only arguments, as I say, you're saying about at the end of the FA Cup, 10 past 5, that's it. You've got nothing for it. But on the flip side, you could say we get Champions League, we have another poor campaign because we've got a gel cup. Our players who we signed don't wear, but that FA Cup's in the trophy room forever, and it's on Rodgers' CV that he's won or something.
And I think that's right. You talk because you got saying about getting into the habit of winning big games. That's true for Brendan Rodgers as well, isn't it? You know what I mean? He needs that piece of silverware just to be able to say, he's a Liverpool manager, and he's still, even though I think he proves himself month on month. He's still not good enough to be the Liverpool manager, is he? By what we say a Liverpool manager should be. When you look at all these guys, Rafa Benitez came in on the back of two La Ligas and the UEFA Cup. We've seen
but prior to that, they were all promoted, so they had the same CV as what Rodgers had, which is basically a blank one. So what is a Liverpool manager in that respect? Rafa broke the norm, really.
Just to get us a little bit more back on this side in the FA Cup.
First of all, Champions League
well more interesting.
Cards on the table. If you did have to choose between 4th and FA Cup,
4th.
Yeah, it's 4th.
Okay, cool. Right.
Just basically just.
So after all
that. But then if you said you asked the players and Rodgers, I reckon they'd all rather win the FA Cup.
No, I don't agree because. Let's say we.
I was trying to get back on top.
If we get to the semi,
there's people at home going,
if we get to the
Blackburn,
if we get to the semi-final or the final and then lose, right, in the FA Cup, and those players, you go, but don't worry because next year you'll go to either the Nou Camp or Bernabeu and you'll host Real Madrid and you'll have a good opportunity because our coefficient will get better from being in it another year in a row. Whereas if we're not in it next year, the gap becomes bigger, we don't get back in it for a few years, we go back in with the lowest coefficient, it's like, we may as well just give up. We're just constantly knocking away at something we're never going to do any good.
Do you honestly think Henderson would rather would take sitting on the bench in the Bernabeu next season or playing in the Bernabeu in a group stage game next season to win in the FA Cup this year as Liverpool?
I don't think it's a single choice of the two, but in his long term,
that's what I'm saying.
That's his desire is to be playing in big games.
Think, to be fair, I think we can make it. I think you can make a case for both because ultimately, when you wind your career up, it's great to be able to tell people about your game at the Bernabeu, and to be fair, he's done that now. You know what I mean? The team have been there and had a look at that. Or do you show your grandkids your fucking medal?
Did he though?
But the team as in general, but being able to show your kids your fucking your FA Cup winners medal.
My last point,
and the kids will be like, what's that?
What's the FA Cup?
No one cares about it. No more.
You get a Champions League place for winning that now. Should have won the Europa, Dad.
Could have come forth.
But then my last point on it would be look at Arsenal. They've been in the Champions League consistently year after year after year. It's not they're no better than us.
The point is that look, you need to both. You know what I mean? Again, you're right. That's how we started talking about the importance of it and blah blah blah. But both. I think to be fair, it's a disappointing season if we don't win the FA Cup from where we are now, or at least get to the final and have a fucking good go of it.
I think this is the last game that we maybe look to make a few changes. I think after that, just because we've played Besiktas, Man City, Burnley inside a week, I think we still make changes for this game, a few.
Yeah. To be fair, we've actually not. We haven't made mass changes in the cup, though.
No, he's made it quite clear that he wants to prioritise the cup. Relatively high. It's been 2 changes. We've got 8 days off before the next game. I don't think he'll make any changes. I would be surprised if Sakho's back fit. He might put him back in. Yeah. Well, I don't think he'll make any.
Fit, I think he comes back.
A lot of the changes have been forced, haven't they?
Because he's not going to start Gerrard in his first game back for a month, is he?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You give him 20 minutes, won't he? Once with a couple of goals.
To dive and win as a penalty to take us through.
Something like that.
Whatever it takes.
Jay Spearing can, take him out. Oh no, can't get him.
Can't, I know. Come on, Matt. Every time you come on here.
It's always the cup time.
It's always the cup time thing. Jordan Ibe can't play either.
And he's injured, so we'll find out.
So I think there's a potential there. I mean, again, what we discussed on the final, where it shows about that the 2 from 3, as it were, who plays behind Daniel Sturridge, and whether we then bring in, does Markovic maybe come does Markovic maybe come back in? It's because I think it's not so much about. I don't think we necessarily have an absolutely nailed on best 11. I think there's variations on the theme, so it could. I think there might well be changes. It's just about whether does he want to get Markovic back in the side to play him back into some form, because he's obviously had a little bit of a dip, hasn't he? So I think there's a good opportunity to get it, because he's been, he's performed well in the cups, hasn't he?
As Chris said, I think the 11 will stay more or less the same after the Blackburn game, and then it'll just be a case of injuries and suspensions would be the only thing that makes changes.
Yeah. The one thing I want to discuss, and it'll come up because he always comes up. Mario Balotelli, any chance he gets a game?
I think he should. I think he deserves a game on his appearances when he's had them over the last month.
Matt?
Whether he should or not, he won't.
No.
Simple as that.
I think what happened with Besiktas is definitely he hasn't thrown his dummy out the pram. I reckon Rodgers has sort of made like a long, medium-term decision to say that you're an absolute bit part player now.
But it's funny because I've seen the kickoffs around that, and people showing the pictures of like Sterling having his hand shaken by Rodgers and Mario Balotelli looking over Rodgers and he's blanked him. Because obviously a picture tells you a picture is perfectly contextualised of what's happened right there. Taking a still one, you've got 50 frames a second, one frame from that tells you exactly what's going on. But the thing for me, and I don't know whether anyone agrees on this, I personally think whether Balotelli's got a medium or long term future is kind of irrelevant to this, but everybody has tried this arm round the shoulder thing. Mancini tried it and ended up nearly fucking sparking him in training at the end. Everyone tries to be nice and be the dad to him and give him the cuddles and give him the support he needs. Is it possible Brendan Rodgers is just treating him like
reverse
a bellend?
psychology?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm of the opinion, why not? Why not try it?
But definitely. I think that's probably the best way to go with him. He's what, 24 now? Rodgers probably turned around and said, look, you're going to have to be treated like an adult. And I'm not going to hand it to you anymore.
Yeah.
And maybe that will bear through in some way, shape or form. I'd be surprised if he starts a game for Liverpool again.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
we don't have many games left this season.
No.
And what is it, like 10, if that?
I think the point at which Gerrard said on telly that he was very disrespectful, blah blah blah. I just think that was like curtains for him, to be honest. And he was the one in in Istanbul who probably played the best out of the three and didn't deserve to come off. Yeah. And he was dragged off all right. Sturridge was greedy in that game. Yeah. But Rodgers knows Sturridge is the future and Balotelli's not.
But the thing is,
it really wouldn't surprise me if we see two up top.
Yeah.
And with one behind, because we're talking about.
But even last night, though, Lambert come on, didn't he, ahead of Balotelli
throughout the year, and what you want to do towards the end of the season.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Whoa. Descended into anarchy here. What's going on?
We were talking on the Fan of Word show about whether the tactics will change later on in the season. I think this is a good game to try.
Yeah, it could be. You want to get in, get it done.
Would you not rather just be our settled, boring, barely win like last night?
Oh, I'd love a bit of that, as well.
Yeah.
But
I think
we could still do that. I think we could make changes and still get the win here.
I think it's making changes for change's sake, though, and the system's working superbly. We've spoke about how it benefits all the players, and Coutinho's revelling in that inside role. If you go two up top, Coutinho's role changes as well. The wing-backs' roles change slightly. The centre midfielders' roles change slightly. The knock-on effect of doing it just for the sake of doing it. Like, we are scoring goals, we are creating chances. Why would you go two up top?
The fact is, look, again, just back on the Balotelli thing, we keep saying this, and thankfully we've now seen that he has got talent. He is a good footballer, because there was a point where there were major question marks over that. He's had some really important contributions off the bench in recent weeks. If he can continue to do that, because again, we go back to last season, we went in the running and we were forced to put Iago Aspas on, and he was, not only was he piss poor, he was completely out of form as well. Whereas Balotelli, if he doesn't train anyway, he doesn't really practice that much. He just rocks up and has a dig at the ball, doesn't he? If we've got him chomping at the bit to come on, and even if that means like, I'll give you an example, Berbatov at Man United. Alex Ferguson knew that he was basically fucking lazy and wasn't totally committed to the fucking cause, so he'd fucking hook him for 4 games, wouldn't he? And then he'd put him in for 4, and then he'd take him out for 4. But different type of player.
The key with Berbatov is his game was built on technique, wasn't it? So he wasn't necessarily a player who needed to play a run of games to get the best out of him. He wasn't, you know, like a runner of the channels or something. His match fitness was irrelevant, really, because he was such a technically gifted player. He never ran, yeah.
But
so Balotelli's a similar sort of player in that he will be great to be able to bring off the bench and be able to hold the ball up or bring someone else into play. So
you don't need 100% match fitness to smash the ball from 30 yards every time you get it, do you? No, I'm honestly of the opinion that he's doing the treating me and keeping Keane approach, and if ultimately it pays dividends, then fine. Because I think we've lost as much as we're going to lose on Balotelli, and if you can find a way to get something out of him, even if that is just in cameo roles here and there, it's the last thing he's got left to try, hasn't it? Because I think he's tried to be nice. I think a lot of managers have tried to be nice. We've not seen the. He's
got to keep him on side a little bit, though, hasn't he? Because you know, a touch wood moment. But if something happens to Sturridge between now and the next 10 games, he will be involved more than probably what. But
what you don't want him is strolling back in. Think like, there you go. Yeah. You want him to get in and be like,
I want to be
fucking Brendan. You know, I want him to fucking run over and fucking like that's a Brendan in your fucking face, Rodgers. I've just scored the fucking winner that's got us into the top 4. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm fine.
I'll take it and then go, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, exactly. But just does a little celebration.
So if we have a crucial penalty,
amazing. That's it. The reindeer here early this year.
Right. If we have a crucial penalty, between now and the end of the season, I wouldn't mind subbing him on to take the penalty if Gerrard's not on the pitch, definitely.
Yeah, defo. So,
subbing for Gerrard.
Oh, sorry, for Gerrard.
Yeah.
that would be controversial.
Just one interesting thing, Blackburn beat Sheffield Wednesday to record their first away league win in 4 months at the weekend, so that bodes terrifyingly well.
At least they have got a win now, because that record's done.
Exactly, yeah. Score predictions then, Ben, what do you think it's going to be?
I went 3-0 last night, so we're going to go 2-0.
Okay, well.
He's just stolen what I was going to say, so I'll go 3-0.
I'm going to go a stiggy 1-0 win.
Okay, it's the FA Cup, so therefore it's 2-1.
Yeah,
it's got to be all.
They'll bring a good little. They'll bring a decent number of fans. Won't they? They get most of the Annie Road for an away cup game. I don't think it'll be as easy as everyone thinks.
Well, it hasn't been the FA Cup. The FA Cup's been hard work so far this season. So
they're an organised team. They don't score many, but they don't concede many either. But
is that why you go for 3-0?
Yeah, exactly. Because we've got far more quality than what they're used to playing up against. Chris, like Sheffield Wednesday and Liverpool.
Yeah, this isn't the mid-90s.
He's just decent striker, in he, but I don't think he's Premiership quality.
Okay, great. So there you go. Let us know your thoughts. Score predictions, thoughts on Balotelli and the treating me and keeping Keane approach, amongst other things. And of course, again, like prioritising the FA Cup over top 4, anything else we've discussed on the show. Also go and check out the redmentv.com. We've done IMTV question time. We answered your top questions. Some of them are good, some of them are quite funny, and some of them were just a bit daft. But definitely worth looking at anyway. Of course, go and check out the best Liverpool website as well. This is Anfield.com. Absolutely true. It's better than the official website, I'm telling you. Go check it out. And of course we'll be back with the normal post-match. Oh, and Melwood Muzza as well, that's also a good account. We're back with the normal post-match content outside Anfield after the game, and hopefully getting towards an FA Cup semi-final. Why not? Anyway, thanks for watching. Ta-ra. I was more nervous going into this game than I was against Man City. It was more hope than expectation at the weekend. Having got ourselves that win and catapulted ourselves right back into the conversation for top 3, top 4. Come up against Burnley just felt like one of them games.